Hello and welcome back to the Sex Talk. Today I want to talk about a little something about mood regulation that is related to something that people may not actually consider for a lot of their lifetime. So I have several food intolerances. For the better half of the last 10, 12 years, I have been paying attention to how food affects my body. And now this isn't just food. This includes like liquids too, water, alcohol. It can include substances, whether those are over-the-counter substances, prescribed by your doctor substances, medications, or illicit drugs. Because I think all of those play a role in our emotions and how we manage emotions, and I don't think that it's talked about enough. Obviously, I think as a society and a culture, we certainly know that alcohol, for example, impairs our judgment pretty greatly. And there are a lot of health and fitness people, experts, that will talk about how alcohol will cause weight gain and things like that. So there's no doubt in all of our minds how foods, drinks, medications, things like that affect us. They certainly cause us to gain weight, things cause us to lose weight, things cause our hair to fall out, things cause the gamut of symptoms within our body, right? So we know that there are lots and lots of side effects to different types of foods and drinks and medications. And what we don't talk about enough is how they affect our emotions. And this is something that I study a lot in my work. This is something that I talk to a lot of clients, patients, even friends and colleagues about. And it's something that I really want to start talking to you about. And that is how to recognize what we put in our body, how it affects our emotion.
Sex talk.
Food definitely has an impact on how you feel and your emotions, but so does not eating. So does starving yourself or restricting your food intake can impact your mood severely. And I think that we don't talk enough about that. So today's video is 100% dedicated to how certain types of foods can make you feel and how they can affect your mood and how they will affect your relationships, your sexual desire, your obviously body image. Everything is tied into what we consume in our bodies. So I think there are so many things to talk about here, and I'm going to start with this first conversation around not eating. So restricting food intake, restricting calorie intake, and the impact that it can have on your emotions. You've heard the term hangry, right? I'm sure you have. Hangry basically means you're hungry and you're angry. So I've had people present in my work, in my office, clients who have severe anger issues. And, one thing that kept coming up in some of my sessions were clients who were restricting their eating and experiencing lots of anger outbursts. Now, I'm not the type of person to say, well, restricting your eating is correlated to your anger. Correlation doesn't necessarily mean causation. The hunger is causing the anger, but we know about being hangry. Like, it is a thing. It's very like a pop culture reference now that we use all the time, hangry. But I think that it's worth talking about, because if you're restricting food for, maybe it's your career, maybe you work in the film industry, in the adult film industry, in the film industry, maybe you're an influencer and you're doing a lot of work like this on media, maybe you're a model. I think that it's very important to talk about, especially, you know, in this culture where that is becoming more and more prevalent, with all of these people becoming influencers and being more and more sort of conscientious about how they present themselves, coupled with, you know, our heavy diet culture, you know, even with this mass movement towards body positivity and even fat liberation. I think that we are still very much, we very much have succumbed to this diet culture. You know, fitness coaches everywhere, working out, getting fit, eating healthy, is all of that is wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. However, people don't have the time to understand how to do it right, or the resources, meaning money, to pay a good coach, good fitness coach, a good nutritionist, you know, to get the right information that they need. And so people are kind of winging it when it comes to dieting, and they're taking pills that give them a quick fix of, oh, well, this helped me drop the pounds really fast. They're following fad diets that help them drop pounds really fast. And in the process, maybe they're getting that, they're getting the results that they want. They're getting the, you know, their body's getting slimmed down, or their you know, their agent, their television agent, their producer, director, whoever is telling them, yes, you need to lose weight. I mean, there's a lot of pressure. And so these quick fixes seem like the answer, right? And so people take them, quick fix, move on with their life, get the job done, We'll deal with the consequences later. As opposed to dealing with it ahead of time, hiring somebody that knows what they're doing, hiring a coach, a fitness coach, a nutritionist, learning about food, learning how to eat healthy. It's not something that we're taught in school, similar to relationships. These are things that we have to sort of navigate on our own. And until we do that, we're not going to really understand and learn what food does to us, and what is good for us and what is not good for us, and what's causing us to feel a certain way and what's not causing us to feel a certain way. We're not doing that. We're kind of, you know, a lot of people are just kind of like doing the thing that's the quick fix to lose the weight. And then, of course, bouncing back, recognizing that it doesn't actually work, and the frustration that comes with that. Not to mention, this is the most important part, is when we have these fluctuations in what we put into our body. Sometimes we do high sugar, sometimes we do high fat, sometimes we do high protein, high carb, low carb, you know, like all of these extremes can reap their harmful effects on your emotions. And how, as a therapist, can I help you manage your emotions if right after our session you're going to go have a giant sugary cocktail, or right after our session you're going to go eat a big bowl of ice cream? So again, I'm not trying to say don't eat that ice cream, don't drink that alcohol. I'm just trying to impart to you how important it is to be aware of how these foods and drinks and medications are affecting your mood. because you can come to therapy and get all of these tools to become healthier emotionally, spiritually, mentally, psychologically, to have better relationships, yet your refrigerator, your medicine cabinet is housing the very thing that dysregulates you, because a lot of emotion is actually a chemical dysregulation. And we can have all of the tools in our arsenal. I worked with clients who have like an anger bag. We put the anger, you know, metaphorically speaking, in a metaphorical anger bag, yet then they're going on set the next day and not eating for, you know, 24 to 18 hours before they go on set. And then they wonder why they're getting extremely angry or getting extremely emotional. And it's a vicious cycle, and they're back in therapy a week later and we can't figure it out. This video is really about managing your emotions and also monitoring what type of food you're eating, if you're not eating, when you ate last, and noticing when these mood shifts happen for you. Because our mood and our emotions can certainly be activated by events around us, past traumas, experiences, something someone says. Certainly, we talk about that a lot, you know. We really certainly talk about regulating our body in relation to past traumatic events, and noticing how it feels. But sometimes I don't hear people talking about this enough, is that what did you eat today? And we do it when we talk about like physical symptoms, like I have a headache or I have a stomach ache, or I'm feeling like something's wrong in our body. Well, what did you eat today, or have you eaten today? But we rarely do it in a relation to our emotions. Recently, one of my clients said they got really, really anxious in the middle of the day yesterday. And, you know, so we were talking about the events that had happened. And turns out they were just at the movies. And, you know, obviously our conversation then turns to, did something in the movie happen? It was a sad movie. Maybe it was something, you know, that activated an emotion for this person. And they said they continued to feel it even though the movie ended, and they talked about the movie with their friends, and the sort of feeling persisted for several hours. And then the conversation turned to food. And this person had eaten, it was the day after a pretty major holiday, and they had overeaten like sweets. They had an entire like thing of cinnamon rolls, and then they went to the movies and they had a big Coke and popcorn. And immediately I said, well, that's a lot of sugar. And there are a lot of nutritionists, you know, dietitians, naturopathic doctors, who talk about the impact of sugar, but there aren't enough mental health professionals who talk about it. And I see it a lot. There's a lot of sugar in alcohol. So we as a society are completely aware that alcohol impairs our judgment. People who drink a lot, you'll hear them say, well, I'm not having a lot of sugar because that'll lead me to have a hangover the next day. So they'll drink like sugar-free alcohols, like liquors with a sugar-free soda or something like that, to avoid the sugar. And so I think it's a really important conversation for us to have, is how does sugar impact your mood? Similar to how not eating can impact your mood and your well-being, consuming too much of one thing can also impact your mood, not just your health. Obviously, high intakes of sugar have a lot of repercussions on your health. We know about diabetes, we know about the risk of heart attack, We know about cholesterol. Your cholesterol levels can be high if you have a really high levels of sugar. Eating high levels of anything can create a lot of health risks for us. But those risks don't really come into play until people get a little bit older. And so by that time, the mood, the mood and the anger and the emotional stuff has already wreaked havoc on your life, right? And so let's not wait till you get to your 40s to understand the impact that food is having on you today. If you're in your teens, if you're in your 20s, 30s, I think taking a look at what you're eating can really, really impact what's going on with your moods. So one thing that I recommend for people is to keep a mood journal and a food journal, a mood food journal. In this journal, you can also keep track of other environmental stressors, other physical things happening with your body. For women, like maybe it's your time of the month, maybe you're pre-menstrual, which means you're not actually bleeding yet, but you're about to. Like your moon cycle for women has like completely impacts your mood, and everybody knows that, right? Coupled with, what did you eat? What did you not eat? When was the last time you ate? What did you have the first thing when you woke up? Now, I'm not a nutritionist, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you what to eat. That's for somebody else to do. I strongly recommend that you do if you have issues with food, and if you have issues with understanding how to eat healthy, if you need if your work requires you to stay thin because you're a model or an actress or actor or a television personality or a rock star, anything, if you have any profession where you're in the public light and you're feeling like you need to present yourself a certain way, I really, really encourage you to invest in someone who knows what they're doing when it comes to talking about healthy eating, nutrition, and healthy weight loss. None of these gimmicks, none of these high protein diets, because high protein diets are good if you're weightlifting. A high protein diet may not be so good long term for someone who just wants to stay thin, who just wants to maintain a lower weight for the camera. So there are healthy ways to do it that don't restrict your eating, so that you can have a holistic form of wellness, so that you can actually truly manage your emotions. Because certain foods will, certain drinks will, and certain medications, 100% of course too, will completely affect how you are. And so going and seeing a therapist while all of these things are not under control kind of defeats the purpose, right? Like therapists don't say, most therapists have a rule, like don't come to a session intoxicated. If you're intoxicated during a session, it's kind of going to undo the work that we do together. It's really not going to help you much. So one thing that we might ask is, please don't come to session intoxicated. However, if you're constantly drinking and you leave the session and you go and you have a drink and then you're drinking until the next day, and then maybe you take a break for a few hours so you can go to your therapy session not intoxicated, there's other things that are impacting you there, because there are studies that should suggest that if you're drinking a lot, even those periods of sobriety, your brain won't remember things. You know how people forget when they've been drinking, oh my God, I did that. Oh my God, I did that. That's what happens when you're inebriated. Well, for people who drink a lot, and for periods in your life where you are drinking a lot, you'll have more memory blackouts, even for the periods when you are sober. So it affects your brain ongoing, even though you stopped drinking at 4 p.m. and you haven't had a drink for 4 or 5 hours, those 4 or 5 hours are still massively impacted by the drinking around it. So food is the same way, and so are medications. Some medications you can't not take, like you have to take them. It's detrimental to your health if you don't take them. Keep a journal of all of those things, because your medical doctor now is the person that you're going to tell if certain things aren't working for you. If you have to be on a medication and your doctor is like, you have to be on it, but you're like, no doctor, this medication is making me completely dehydrated. It's making me constipated. Like, these are things you need to be telling your doctor, because they need to weigh, and you need to weigh, is the health risk of taking this medication, does it outweigh the risk of not being on it? So these are the types of things that only you as the person can decide. So things to look at are how much food you're intaking, what time, alcohol, water intake, and medications, whether they're prescription, over-the-counter, or even illicit drugs like cocaine, methamphetamines, Molly is a big one, LSD and mushrooms, psychoactive drugs. All of those, pay attention to what it does to your body afterwards, during and afterwards. Gas, bloating. There's so many studies coming out suggesting that gut health is completely related to brain health. So it makes perfect sense that if your gut is off balance, then you're going to have more difficulty in managing your mood and emotions. So I'm going to be talking more and more about being healthy, and encouraging you more and more to start working with health coaches that specialize in nutrition, so that you can start getting that information, so that when you work with a therapist and you try to manage your emotions, it doesn't fall flat. Piggybacking on that is sexuality. Your sexuality is 100% tied to what you put into your body. So keep that in mind, as you're keeping your journal. Also take note, like, maybe this food made me a little bit more, a little less likely to be aroused, or maybe I was feeling more aroused because I had a lot of alcohol. All of those things are acceptable and okay. Just keep track of it, because it's your body, it's your health, it's your life. And you can see as many therapists as you want. They tell you not to drink. A coach might tell you not to eat certain things. But at the end of the day, you're the expert on your own life. You're the expert on your own body. So you got to make those choices for yourself. The Sex Talk.